We're putting together the mosaic with disparate pieces of data. It's a bit like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. At first, you have all these little pieces on the table, but little by little, the more pieces you have, the more the picture becomes in focus.
Lou Elizondo has just interviewed a second Vietnam veteran about a strange object he saw in an active war zone. But he needs to gather more data.
If we can establish the things that they were seeing back then in the past from the Vietnam War are indeed the same types of vehicles being observed and perhaps the same type of technology that we're seeing today, then maybe it'll help us figure out what these things are and where they're from.
Today, he's sitting down with a veteran who witnessed a similar object during the NATO bombing of Kosovo in 1999.
Mr. Tarr, I presume?
Yes, sir.
Hey, how are you, sir?
How are you?
Thank you very much for coming here and speaking with me. I really appreciate it.
My name is Derek Tarr. I was a senior airman during the late 90s serving in the United States Air Force. This is the first time I've ever told this story.
Derek Tarr was a boom operator on an Air Force KC-10, responsible for the mid-air refueling of NATO jets between bombing runs.
You got a lot of pilots out there, but you have very few boom operators. These individuals are trained experts on all sorts of allied NATO aircraft. They know the difference between an F-18 Hornet, between an F-117 Night Fighter, an F-16. They know all these aircraft because they see them day in and day out.
On March 24th, 1999, Tarr is on a refueling mission over the Adriatic Sea when suddenly he sees a strange light.
I was sitting in the boom pod in the back of the KC-10, just waiting for the next set of receivers to arrive. I had noticed a bright light that was behind us, slightly below our altitude. Just kind of hung back, didn't seem to make any more forward progress towards our aircraft. That's when I kind of started to wonder what was going on. I called up to my pilot on the interphone to ask him if we had more receivers coming and said that we did not have anyone scheduled.
Tarr says the control center monitoring the airspace reported all known aircraft were accounted for.
We started into a turn, and as I looked back, it was just a bright white orb. It was very bouncy, almost like a super ball. Very short, very succinct, very sharp movements, but extremely rapid. The jostling or oscillations that it was doing were certainly not minute adjustments, probably several hundred feet, up, down, side to side. Once I got to about our 8 o'clock position, it did a rapid climb and just in the blink of an eye went straight up and it just shot right up into the sky. Fastest thing I've ever seen.
The UFO Tarr claims he saw was spherical instead of the oblong shape of Tic Tacs, but it featured some of the same 5 observables.
We have hypersonic velocities, instantaneous acceleration, and of course, positive lift or in the vernacular, anti-gravity.
4 new sightings spanning decades in Kosovo, Afghanistan, and Vietnam. U.S. military eyewitnesses reported single objects in close proximity to American planes. And in the 2004 Nimitz encounter, where an entire carrier strike group was present, radar operators reported a fleet of objects.
What Tarr saw and what the Nimitz folks had reported back in 2004, there were some commonalities in the performance of these things.
The team needs to gather more data to address the biggest question. Are these the same objects? And if so, what are they? In the case of Derek Tarr's sighting, could the conflict itself offer a clue?
Clearly, when we engage Kosovo, we're operating in fairly close proximity to Russia, and it's an opportunity for them to collect intelligence on these cutting-edge aircraft in the U.S. inventory, including the stealth bomber.
The B-2 stealth bomber was first used in combat in the Kosovo War. At the time, it was America's most advanced aircraft.
So all of those kinds of technologies are very pertinent to the Russian military, who are constantly preparing for the eventuality in which they may have to engage the United States.
The thought did cross my mind that this certainly could be a hostile.
Are they really an adversarial technology that has managed to hoodwink us and leapfrog ahead of the United States going back decades? If that's the case, then I think we have a much, much bigger problem on our hands, because that means there is something inherently broken with our national security apparatus.
I think it very well could be a significant national security issue. If we just kind of bury our head in the sand or look away, we're screwed.